For those of you that have been following the channel, we've been working with this plasma PN64F8500, and in today's video we're going to tackle mainboard problems. So unlike the Y-Sustain where we get erratic blinking from the IR lights, with this one we're getting a very consistent one blink every 3 to 4 seconds. So we just plugged it in and we can take a look at the IR light. It's just blinking once every few seconds, and of course we can't turn it on. It doesn't respond to the remote or anything. So let's go ahead and open it up and we'll take a closer look at the mainboard. So right now I'm looking at a functional mainboard, and the reason is because I want to show you some of the readings we're supposed to be getting. So these two capacitors that are below this IC chip over here, when I take a measurement, my meter reads 150 ohms, and that's on the good board. And when we're looking at the customer's bad board over here, let me adjust the zoom, and we do the reading, we are getting 0 ohms. So what we're actually doing here by measuring these capacitors that are located around this IC chip is we're realistically just doing an ohms check on this IC, and it appears to be shorted. Now, when that IC shorts out, we often see it also short out this IC. And if I do some ohms checks on some of the capacitors next to it, I don't actually have a short. However, because they typically short out together, even though it doesn't have an issue right now, if I don't replace it, there's a good chance that it's either going to fail in the near future, or my repair just won't work because it has a failure that just hasn't manifested in a full short yet. So in order to properly and easily desolder and resolder these two chips, I'm going to remove the large heat sinks first with the help of some hot air to loosen them up. Alright, that should be enough. And so these are going to be pretty hot, so I'm going to try to be quick. But one of the things is I'm going to be twisting the heatsink instead of pulling it away from the board, because I can sometimes I can remove and, just remove the heat plate that's on top of the processor, and of course we don't want to do that. Alright. I already have my replacement chip, and if we flip it over, we'll notice that it has a bottom ground pad, which means I'm going to have to use a good amount of heat to remove this chip, and it's the same thing with this one over here. So I'm going to be using bottom heat. The board's been warming up. I think it's time to remove the chips. I'm going to add some flux first. And we're going to be using exclusively the hot air. Whoops. There we go. And then the other one. There we go. All right, I have my solder paste. I'm going to be putting a little bit on the ground pad. And all the solder paste really is just a little bit of flux with very, very small solder balls. Oh, that is way too much. We're going to need to remove a lot of that actually. Before I remove it, just for fun, let's zoom in on it so you can get a closer look at what it looks like. It's very sensitive. Just trying to get the best angle. I think it's as good as it's gonna get. But essentially, if you see, it's really just a bunch of little solder balls. Well, actually, you know what? I know how to get closer. Let's bring the board up a little bit. There we go. So there's just tiny, tiny little solder balls just mixed in with a bunch of flux. Pretty cool. All right, as I said, we're gonna do a little cleanup because that's actually way too much. And I'm just making a mess. All right. We're gonna start that over. All right, that's a little bit better. Now let's just place the chip back on. Perfect. And we'll do the same over here. All right, and we'll hit it with some hot air again. Okay, and we'll do the other one. Okay, and we'll let it cool off. And one thing I want to do is we'll recheck for shorts. So we're still checking resistance. And the board is very hot, so when the board is very hot, it has a lower resistance than when it's cooled down. But it looks like the short is gone. It's still extremely low resistance, so we'll let the board cool off and check again in a minute. Unfortunately, one of the cameras did run out of battery, so we're gonna have to do a quick voiceover for the rest. But after the board cooled off, we were able to get between 150 and 170 ohms, so that did confirm the short was gone. You'll have to just imagine me doing a perfect soldering job for the rest of the pins on those two chips. And of course, we did one more check to make sure there was still no shorts after I soldered down all the pins on both of those chips. I've already connected all the ribbons and connectors back into the main board, so we're just gonna go ahead and power it up and see what happens. So I'm not seeing anything smoke up, which is good news. And the IR light I'm seeing here is actually flashing more consistently. I think we just got our 5 flashes, so let's take a look at the screen. You know what? We're still getting more flashing. So I don't have anything on screen. The flashing seems to have stopped. Oh, and I just saw the panel prime, so it just flashed on real quick, but we're still getting the 5 flashes. So it means we're doing a little bit better, but we're not quite there yet. We're gonna have to do a few more repairs to this board in order to get it going. So as we first found out, we had some shorts right over here around this IC chip, and we replaced both of these. We did get rid of the short, and we did have better symptoms. The TV was able to prime. At this point, I've spent some time looking all over the board. I cannot find what other component is currently causing the fault. So at this point, I've spent enough time that it's just not gonna be worth it for me to keep working on this board. We're gonna offer the customer a replacement module, which we do have a few available, see if they wanna go that route. But at this point, we're gonna have to call this one a no fix. So unfortunately, this is not gonna be a successful repair. But if you found the video helpful or useful, leave us a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching as always.